Chuck. Okay. All right, there we go.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So my name is Ryan Jumpanigo, from here in Kyle, South Dakota, the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. I work with the WSU tribe, our tribe here. I'm one of our tribal council representatives here. It's an elected position by the people. We serve 2-year terms. You know, it's kind of like how the United States government has the legislators.
Yeah. Okay.
That is what I do. We help make laws, and we're kind of I don't know, I guess Selena can correct me if I'm wrong or if she thinks I'm BSing, but we're kind of the top officials of our tribe. You know, we decide when in our tribal council meetings, we decide where the money gets spent and this and that, and there's just, I mean, there's a lot more to it than just that. But
oh yeah,
so,
definitely.
I'm in the master's in Lakota leadership and management. That's a degree I'm seeking here at OLC. This is my first semester as a graduate student, and I'm kind of struggling trying to juggle work and school. Although we only have in our graduate program two classes is considered full-time.
Oh wow.
So we only have 2 classes.
Lucky.
But yeah, you know, with them, I have meetings.
I'm sure it's a lot.
Yeah, I have meetings every day, so a lot of my time spent on meetings. So I'm trying to get caught up in my work. My favorite type of music, I like country music, and I also like. You guys might find this hard to believe because I'm a shy person. I like to karaoke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fun.
I think. And then so it looks like then you guys introduce yourselves and then we go to the next portion, right?
Yeah, I can go ahead and go next if that's all right. I have some kind of relatable experience. So I actually come from a local county government background, and so I understand as far as what you're saying with all the legislative, prep work and writing laws, and there's a ton of work that's involved in that. And so I'm sure he's a busy man is what I'm trying to say. But my name is Amanda Pearson. I am from Kennewick, Washington. I was born and raised here. I go to school at WSU Tri-Cities, where I received my undergraduate degree as well in social sciences. And so I had a concentration of history, psychology, and anthropology. And so I went into county government and worked there for about 2 years and decided that I was done working with adult children. So I decided to go back to school to get my master's degree to work with actual children. It's been an interesting road, but I feel like the experience I gained in county government will help me as far as what I'd like to teach, which would be social studies and history. I'm excited to get my master's degree. I'm currently in the classroom right now in a practicum during the day and then take classes at night. Dr. Johnson's is one of them. I am not currently employed. They recommend that in this program, because we have 4 classes and a practicum, that you don't work full time. And it worked perfectly for me because I quit my job and decided I needed a new career. So I was already unemployed. And so let's see, my favorite type of music, I love everything. Definitely love country. I like rock and roll. I like R&B, hip hop. I love classical music. Anything that has a beat, I love. So that's me.
My name is Selena Barob, and I'm from the other side of the reservation. From Ryan, I'm from on the west side, Oglala, South Dakota. And I work at the school here in my district is called Goldman School. Ishnawitra, Iowa. I've been there for about 18 years now,
Oh, wow.
and a classroom teacher for 9. And then I currently am the coordinator of the gifted and talented department, which is a pull-out program.
Okay.
And let's see, my favorite type of music would be country, and then just like you said, anything with the beat. Yeah, pretty
Love
much.
it. Very cool. Well, it's nice to meet you both. This is a really cool experience. I'm glad that we actually got to get together, because sounds like we're all very busy people.
Mm.
Let's see. So, and before I move on, I'm curious. So how big is the reservation as far as size-wise? You said the other side of the res. So, I mean, miles between towns.
I would say, you know, from the east end to the west end is probably, I think at one time it was like 100, 220 miles maybe
Oh, okay.
long. And then north to south, probably 50 miles.
Okay, so quite a big space.
Mhm.
Okay, very cool. Let's see. So, and do you all meet on campus, or is it's all online?
Yeah.
And was that pre-COVID that way too, or has it changed? It's always been
Pre-COVID,
online.
yeah, no, pre-COVID, we were
Oh.
face to face. I mean, it
Oh,
would have
okay.
been face to face, but since COVID, the college has been 100% online.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy because a lot of our schools are face to face, our
Yeah.
high school and elementary schools, but the college chose to stay online for this semester.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because that's the same. We did summer school was online, and then fall in elementary education is back in school face to face, and then same with WSU campus. Most of our classes are back on campus, but it just depends on the professor. Okay, so we have a list of questions. Should we just do each one individually and go take turns like we just did?
Yeah.
That works?
do that.
Okay. So the first one being, how would you describe your cultural identity?
So yeah, you want to go first on this one?
Cultural identity, I guess. So growing up, I don't know, I like to think, or I explain it, I grew up in 2 different worlds, I guess. At home, I was like not necessarily traditional, but the language, it was fluent Lakota spoken in my home. My grandparents lived in I don't know, like out in the country, I guess. There was no running water. They did have electricity. And then when I was home, I went to a private parochial school. I went to Red Cloud Indian School, which was run by the Catholic Church. So I learned both the culture, and then I learned the Christian culture also. But culturally, I would probably like to say I'm not, I don't know. I guess it's hard for me to explain. I know the culture, but I don't necessarily like fully immerse myself in our culture, I guess I could say. But like the basis is respect. Empathy would be some, I guess, identities. Yeah, it's hard for me to explain.
It's a hard one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can go next if you don't mind. Just because I personally have issues with my own identity. It's always been hard for me to kind of pinpoint my identity as far as my culture. I have always fallen back when I've been asked that question, like in classes and things, on like traits and values that I hold, and not like my heritage. And so for me, it's always respect and trust as well. And so, you know, I was bullied when I was younger, and so that was important to me, that like respect and trust. And then I was always told by my parents to respect my elders. And so for me, I think that's kind of shaped who I am as a person. But like as far as my actual heritage is concerned, I don't really have any kind of cultural heritage to speak of. I mean, my family on both sides have done genealogy work, and so we can kind of trace back to like where our families have originated, what countries they've come from. But I don't really feel connected to that, because those people are so far removed from me as a person. And so I guess for me, I feel like Kennewick is my home, my hometown, and the area that I live in, and the nature, the trails that I always go to. That's kind of what I think of when I think about my cultural identity, I guess. But it is a really hard question to answer when asked to put it into words.
Thank you. Amanda, before, did you state your age or no?
No, I'm 32.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just writing these down. And you're from, where did you say again?
From Kennewick, Washington.
Okay.
So the Tri-Cities is there's 3 towns here, and I live in Kennewick.
Washington. Okay. So, you know, I'm kind of the same as Selena. You know, I didn't grow up in a traditional household, but the language was spoken by not my mother. I was raised in a single parent household. My mom didn't speak, but my mother's father spoke fluent Lakota, actually Dakota, because he's from the other side of South Dakota, where they speak with a different dialect. But and then my uncle, my mom's brother's wife, her family spoke fluent Lakota, so I was always around speakers. I myself, I can't speak Lakota, but I can do simple words and phrases, but I'm not fluent. But I mean, growing up, I wasn't really, I didn't really grow up with, like my wife, she grew up really traditional, and they practiced they live our spirituality. You know, they go to sweat lodge and Sundance and all that, the spiritual stuff of our people. And that's the way she grew up. And I didn't grow up that way. So when I met her, that's when I started participating in the sweat lodge, because I stayed away from it as long as I could. And then I gave in, and I loved it. So then now, you know, it's part of my life, that part of our culture, the spirituality and whatnot. But yeah, I guess now I could kind of consider myself somewhat traditional, I guess, not, you know, maybe 50% or whatnot, but you know, I don't know everything about our culture. I'm still a learner, you know, a lifelong learner, and so I think, you know, my cultural identity would have to be, if I was to describe it with a word, probably, I mean, I guess I couldn't, like Selena said, you know, it's kind of hard to answer this question for me. I mean, only because for us, you're either a traditional or not, right, Selena? Kind of that way in our culture here in our reservation.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of in between. I didn't grow up that way, but you know, I'm kind of that way now. So I really can't use a word to describe what I can identify myself as. But yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's hard to kind of contextualize these questions sometimes, is having to force ourselves to think about these things. How about number 2? What are 2 core values that reflect your identity as a graduate student?
I'll go first. So one of our main core values. So for us, you know, in our culture, we have 7, and our main one is respect. And that's probably with every culture, every, you know, every race, I guess. But I mean, it's one of our 7 virtues, our 7. So mine would have to be respect. You know, I try to be respectful and hopefully in turn, you know, gain respect. But I mean, I try. And then the other one is, I would probably say, another core value that I have is I would say family. I mean, it's not a value, but I mean, my family is really important to me. I have 3 kids and a grandchild, and 1 grandchild on the way. So,
Oh, wow.
so you know, that's a value. It's not a core value, but I mean, you know, that's what's important to me. So is my family and respect.
Congrats, by the way. That's
Mhm.
exciting.
Thank you.
When is the baby due?
February.
Oh, how fun.
And I have a 2-year-old granddaughter now who's a terror.
Ah, that's a fun age. I've got a 4-year-old nephew. He was recently at that age, and it was interesting. How about you, Selena? Would you like to answer next?
Sure, I will go next.
Perfect.
So I guess one core value would be just again respect. I always teach my students, treat others the way you want to be treated, and help out in any way that you can. Another one I'm learning is empathy. I have an issue with like intrinsic and extrinsic. I have students who, so I always go back, I always use an example would be a student would say, if I do this, what do I get? Or, you know, what are you going to give me if I do this? And so our students have been trained to work for, I mean, you know what I mean? It's not, there's
reward.
there's no intrinsic satisfaction like, oh, I just finished that, or I just did that. So I guess empathy would be my other one. And just trying to show students that you don't always have to receive something that to show, you know, that you did to prove something.
Yeah.
But and then I guess another one would be commitment, because I'm having a hard time with these 2 classes right now, trying to keep up and then work, have a full-time job, and then I have a 2-year-old grandson.
Oh,
and
wow.
1 daughter. So it's you know, it's day to day.
Yeah. Well, and I have my cohorts, like my classmates all have, you know, part-time jobs or full-time and children. And I'm like, I'm over here with no job and no children, and I'm barely keeping my head above water. So I do not know how all of you are doing this. So keep it up. But that's kind of where my mind goes to, is just respect is very important to me as well, and trust is important. I've had some personal traumas and things in my life that have trust issues, and so for me, trust is important. And then just more of a personal level, I would say emotional stability and determination to get through this semester. Definitely.
Yeah.
When does your semester end, or is it quarters?
In December, beginning
December,
of December, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, same. We're almost there.
Yeah.
Let's see, number 3. So we have, what role has your cultural background played in your professional development?
Let me read that again.
Yeah, you're okay. What role has your cultural background played in your professional development?
Well, like for me, for me, I guess, I when you said you were a social studies teacher, or you're going to be,
Mhm.
I was also a social studies teacher in the middle school before
That's where I want to be.
before I got elected to council, and I guess, just, like I mentioned, respect, you know, working with kids, you know, it's challenging, but I find working with kids is a lot easier than working with adults, only because, kids, they listen,
Mhm.
they're growing, and if you can really get their attention, they listen, and you gain their respect, they respect you back.
Mhm.
So I guess, um my profession, I guess the kids in that sense kind of helped me in my professional development, as far as being a teacher, and then, the respect portion of it, having respect and then gaining respect. So now I try to carry that with me in my job here as a
Mhm.
tribal councilman, but it's kind of hard. Like I said, working with adults, my phone never quits ringing.
Yeah.
People want this and want that, and I try to help when I can. And there's sometimes you can't help, and you hear about it. They cuss
Mm.
you out. You're the worst person in the world if you can't
Yeah.
help. But most of the times I can help. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's just kind of what, just having that respect has helped me grow. You know what I mean? Just being respectful, trying to be respectful, and it's helped me grow
Mm.
professionally, I guess.
Sounds like you also have a lot of patience too.
Well, I think you kind of have to,
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
in the job I have,
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I would say I agree with all of that as well, and just more my life experience, I think, has helped me to put me in a position to now grow as far as my professional development. But I think that professional development goes kind of hand in hand with like just self growth in general. And those life experiences that I've had, and those things that my parents have taught me, my morals as far as respecting my elders, and talking to people like you would like to be talked to, and building that empathy into me at a young age. I think that that's helped me in my journey. But I think one of you mentioned before, is like, it's a lifelong journey. I'm never going to master that. I'm always going to be continuing to learn how to be better and better. So that's kind of how I feel about currently, and looking forward as far as professional development.
I guess the same as what you were saying about just wanting to be better. I guess just wanting to understand more.
Mm-hmm.
So I before I was saying I grew up with grandparents. I grew up in our culture, or in our language, we call our grandparents Muchi and Kaka. I grew up with them, and they were hard workers. I guess my Uchi was a artist. She did a lot of beadwork. She did a lot of quill work, and just sitting by her bedside and watching her do her work, the patience that she had, the determination that she had. So I like to think that I can be like that one day. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
When you learn a lot by watching, I had the same kind of experiences growing up with my grandparents and just watching them and in their environment and learning so much without actually speaking. I think it sounds like it's the same for you, and that's really important. And we are role models to the kids too. So
Mhm.
I can see how that kind of comes full circle. Very cool. How can teachers draw on their students' cultural backgrounds to enhance learning?
I can go.
Okay.
So I've been reading some articles, and our school a few years ago, we were talking about switching to project-based learning school-wide. And I went to Albuquerque. They have a knockout, I can't remember what it's called, but and then Mary Bowman in our class, she's one of those people who she's creating a school. She's designing, she's putting an immersion school together. And so along those lines, project-based, thinking more like land-based, place-based teachings. A lot of the schools around here do that, where they do teach sacred sites. They're starting to get back into the buffalo kill and teaching what the uses of the buffalo, every part of it. And the language is a big initiative here and has been for a few years. And then I guess just taking, so in the school I work in, the teachers are addressed by auntie, uncle. So in our language, it's Tui. Our principal, we call her Uchi, grandma, because that's what she prefers. So the kids address us not by Miss Selena or Miss Barob, it's Tui, and that's how we're addressed in the school. And so I guess just taking it back to when it says their cultural identity, kind of teaching them where they're from, giving them some kind of idea about that.
Are you all receiving this message? The 10 minutes remaining?
Yes.
Okay. I will create another link here while we're talking and send it via email. So when we get cut off, we can just jump right on. But I agree that I think it's important to not only have that hands-on experience, but bringing in individual background. So for a lot of my students, they have, Hispanic backgrounds. And so a lot of them are Spanish speakers. And so maybe as far as history projects or social studies projects are concerned, I could do things that would be like researching their family heritage and where they came from and what languages and foods that they have in their culture. I think learning those things about their culture will help them establish their own cultural identity too, because it's something obviously in the national schools, US school systems, that we are just trying to pump out a product, and there's not much of individual background that's important. And so kind of stripping some of those layers back and focusing back on the student and their individual background and putting that focus on them, I think is really important to their understanding of not only themselves, but the world around them and how to interact with other students too.
Oh, is it my turn? Sorry.
Oh, yeah,
We're on,
you're
we're
okay.
on
I'm also
question
trying to
4.
create that link too. I'm sending it
Okay.
out to you both.
So I think just like how I used to do it in my classroom, if we came upon a project where we wanted to, because a lot of our stuff in our lessons in our classroom is geared towards our culture, whether it be language or just culture or our knowledge of um, our sacred ceremonies, this and that, and it really does capture their attention, and it isn't hard to do, because they're interested in that anyway. And like Selena said, above every year, our where I taught school in my hometown, they do a buffalo kill right around the Native American Day, which is early October. So we just had one 2 weeks ago, and the student there's a student chosen to actually shoot the buffalo, and when the buffalo dies, the girls, they do a womanhood ceremony. We have elder ladies who come, and they get the young girls, and that's part of the ceremony from long time ago. When our main source of food was the buffalo, the warriors would kill it, and the women would dress the buffalo. They would take the hide, and they would skin it, and they would take all the meat and stuff. So, and that's part of the ceremonies that they teach our young girls here, at our school, where I taught school. And they take part that way, and so they're really interested, and that always takes place during Native American week, or right around Native American Day. I think probably in Washington it's still Columbus Day, but here
Yeah,
in
I
Southeast,
think the state has actually changed the name to Indigenous Peoples Day,
yeah,
but
yeah,
not nationally, obviously.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, and so you know um enhancing our getting our students attention isn't really hard, as far as when we're teaching culture.
Yeah,
They're always really interested, they're really engaged. So
that's good. Yeah. Just being able to be provided the resources to be able to teach that. That's awesome. Let's see. And I'm finishing up sending out this link here because we have less than 5 minutes. Sorry, I'm not very good with multitasking and technology. And then let's see, the next one was what role do the students' families play in the process of education?
I think families play an important role in education because they're the support, and they should be the ones to enforce or help the kids to understand and use skills. But here on the reservation, we have a lot of younger parents who are, I guess the only word I can say is young, and they don't have a whole lot of experience being an adult before they have a child. So they're learning right along with, the child.
Right.
And it's hard for them to become involved, I guess. That's my opinion. That's what I see happening.
Oh yeah.
But we do have the parents who are concerned, who do call and who do show up to like any kind of engagement activities, and who are there being supportive. But it's just a wide variety of parenting skills that we have here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it definitely depends on the class, because each year it's going to be different as far as the parents' engagement. And, like you mentioned, Selena, there could be a number of reasons why the parent might be able to help participate in the students learning or might not be. My dad was a teacher for a long time. He taught second grade, and so he worked in a low income school district, and a lot of the parents weren't in the students' lives. They may have lived with grandparents or aunts and uncles, and so they might not even be in their life. So how do you get grandma who has 4 children that they're helping raise, and how do you get them to be able to help with the child? It's not that they don't want to be involved, it's that they are so overwhelmed with what they're having to do in their role as the parent too. It's just, I think it's very, once again, it's very much an individual kind of task to meet with the parent or the grandparent or the guardian to see what they need from us as educators and what we can provide to support them in order to help the student. And so I know, like, a lot of things that they use in the practicum classroom I'm in right now is like they have, it's called Classroom Dojo. And so it's just like an app that they use to communicate with the parents or the guardian on a daily basis and give him, heads up, this is coming up or this needs to be turned in or whatnot. And then a lot of times too, just making sure we're not sending home homework that the parent or guardian isn't going to understand, because if we send something new home, then they can't help. Well, then the student's going to come back to school the next day and be totally lost and behind. So just if I'm an educator and I'm sending home homework, it's not going to be something that would be challenging for the parent. And if I did send something home, it'd have explicit instructions as to what they need to do, and kind of help mitigate some of that struggle. Because I know when I've helped some of my cousins with their homework, it's like, I don't even know how to do this stuff. How am I supposed to help? So if I feel that way, how's a parent going to feel?
Are we about ready to end? I can answer real quick. For
Oh,
me,
yeah.
getting the parents engaged is in helping with their students' learning, I think is challenging.